We all know that without our health, we don't really have much. And chasing money certainly becomes less important. But the fact is, the need for money never does. We speak with specialist fitness trainer Emma White to tell us more about what's health got to do with wealth. Emma, health and fitness, it's such a huge subject right now. And we're interested this week to talk about how health and fitness really impacts on your own personal life and in particularly your finances. So tell us about that.
Well, the biggest impact that fitness can have and exercise can have on you is obviously keeping you healthy. So if you're exercising on a regular basis and making those healthy lifestyle choices around your food, the exercise that you're doing, you're likely to live longer. Not only are you going to be healthy and live longer, but you're much more alert, which can help you in your work, in your personal life, because you're much more alert and ready to really deal with the stress and strains of normal life.
And tell us about, you talked about being alert and focus. Expand a little bit more about what, by keeping fit, how it really impacts on your state of being.
Sure, yeah. I mean, a lot of people think that exercise is really just exercising our bodies and keeping us fit and keeping our muscles healthy. But really, when you exercise, you're also exercising your mind. You know, it takes a lot of discipline to go to a gym and exercise or to go for a run. And in those times when you're having your me time, you really can get one with what's going on in your life. It can de-stress you. It can make you much more alert. So people that tend to do exercise are much more productive at work because they've had that time out of their day to spend and focus on themselves, to get themselves in that really good space. The other thing that we find as well is that, you know, if you're fit and healthy, you're less likely to be falling sick. So companies are loving this at the moment, corporate wellness, because it really allows you to focus on your employees, get them in a good space so they're not always taking time off work for sickness, for stress. And there's plenty of studies that show that after you exercise, that rush of endorphins really helps with a little bit of anxiety, depression. So you'll find a lot of doctors now will be saying to some of their clients that may be suffering from a little bit of depression or stress, you know, go and exercise, go and take a long walk, go for a swim, do something that gets you out of the normal day and gets you de-stressed. And
stress is such a it's such a huge reason why people become, like when they're off work, and it affects their personal life so much as well. I mean, tell us a little bit about your experience within, say, your household of how keeping fit yourself, and you know, we talk about not just keeping fit by exercise, but keeping fit sort of through the foods that we eat. So tell us a little bit, Emma, about how that's impacted in your life and some examples that viewers can use as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose the most difficult thing for many of us is just having the time to fit it in. You know, if you've got young kids, if you've got young kids and you're working full time, you know, at what point of the day do you take an hour out or half an hour out of your day to take that time to de-stress and get some exercise? And what I did, and I found really helpful, is that I just decided that half an hour to an hour of me time a day was going to make me a better mother. It was going to make me much more productive at the office because I'd had that time to just disconnect from what was going on in my life. And you can plan it in. You either plan it in the morning before work, lunchtimes can sometimes work, or straight after work before you come home and see the kids. Or if you know, we're lucky here, it's so safe that being able to exercise even when the kids have gone to bed. And just taking that time, I found personally made me feel a lot calmer and made me feel like I was being a better mum. And then at the weekends, you know, you can do an awful lot of exercise and stuff with your kids. Taking your kids for a long walk, taking them for a swim, all that sort of stuff is still counted as exercise. Exercise doesn't have to just be running for half an hour or doing something intense. It can just be going for a walk, going for a nice swim, you know, being out on the beach with your kids and having a bit of a run around with a football. It can be all these sorts of things. It doesn't have to be a regimented, you know, program. That's what I think scares people with time. But I think that if you can make that time for yourself and spend a bit of time on thinking about what your family are going to eat, you know, being a bit planful. It's very difficult when you're a working mum in particular to think, I've got to go shopping and get everything for the kids. If you can just spend a bit of time at the start of the week planning your week out, planning the healthy options you're going to have, the healthy snacks you're going to have. Because as we all know, it's been said many times, but 80% of your body is really made in the kitchen. and 20% is fine-tuned in a gym or in an exercise program. So you've got to get the food right to match that healthy lifestyle you're choosing.
And how can we, bringing it back to sort of money and finance, we have this perception that to keep fit and eat well, it costs so much money. How can we start to budget for it, and does it cost so much money?
No, that's a really a good point. A lot of people think it costs a lot of money, and that's because, you know, people associate exercise and fitness with going to a gym. You know, we're very fortunate in the UAE that we can exercise outside for almost 9 months of the year. Whether you want to exercise in a beach, on a park, or just around your community, you don't have to be a member of a gym. There's lots of equipment that you can buy that's very, very cheap, that's very simple to use, whether it's exercise bands, a yoga mat, a fit ball. All of those things cost not a lot of money. And you know, by getting some advice from a personal trainer or going online to some fantastic websites, they can show you some great exercise to do. You know, joining a gym really becomes helpful if you've got a specific goal in mind where you do need some equipment, or if you find it a little bit more difficult to motivate yourself, then going to a gym with a personal trainer is great.
And that's huge, right? The accountability. I know for me, I need to have a personal trainer. I mean, we all know how to put the yoga DVD in and watch it. And so for me, it definitely helps having that accountability partner, that buddy, to, you know, I've got to be up on a Sunday and a Thursday to start at 7 a.m. So I think that accountability is huge. And let's bring it back to the food. So you talked about exercise. What about budgeting in you know, we think like organic food, raw foods. Does that cost a lot of money?
It can do, but I think you have to be a bit careful of the whole organic buzz. You know, there are plenty of good foods that are in our local supermarkets that we can buy. It's more about choosing the right food groups and making sure you have a balanced diet. And, you know, my motto has always been, you know, everything in moderation, but also moderation. If you go a bit too extreme on a diet, you're not going to stick to it. If you have a more of a balanced approach to what you're eating, and you don't treat yourself every now and then and again, then I think you'll last a lot longer. And what I think the reason that people get so obsessed with going on a very strict diet, I'm going to eat everything organic, or I'm going to eat a certain diet, they do lose a lot of weight very quickly, which is mainly water. And then they'll hit a plateau, and then they'll just go back to what they were doing before. Whereas if you make it more of a lifestyle choice, you know, I'm choosing to change my behavior towards food, and I'm starting to eat a more balanced diet, it will last you a lot longer. Now, the weight may take a little bit longer to drop off, but it's a much safer and a healthier way to get, you know, the weight that you might want off.
And I think that's really key, what you've just said there about choosing to change your behavior towards food. And, you know, we mentioned earlier about that having a huge impact on your state of being. Again, let's bring it back to like the finance side. Tell us a little example about how this change of behavior to lifestyle and the way that you live, you know, fit and healthy. And again, it's not just about being fit, but mentally healthy as well in terms of nutrition. Tell us how that has impacted in you personally, looking after your own personal finances, and how it increases your own wealth.
Yeah, I think the biggest impact for me is, you know, having made that choice that I'm going to live a healthy lifestyle and be a bit more planned for what I'm doing is, you know, I've managed to reduce some of my costs down. So, you know, when I was working full time and running around and not really being very planful, my food bills went up because I was just rushing around impulse buying. You know, you buy stuff that's just easy to make. You don't plan it out and think, well, I'll make a big batch and put it in the freezer and things like that. The other thing as well is because I was running around, I thought I'll just go to these gym classes and, you know, I'll squeeze that in, and it was all a bit manic. Now that I've taken the time to change the behaviour, you know, I'm not a member of a gym right now. I don't need to be, not just because I'm a personal trainer, but because I know how much can be done outside, and being outside in this beautiful weather is just fantastic. And then the other thing I think that's really helped me is that I just feel much more energized and alert. So I think that transpires in everything I'm doing, in that, you know, it just makes work and life balance a lot easier because I'm a lot calmer. And I suppose those are the main ways. But I think the biggest, I suppose the other thing as well that would be a big impact for a long term is if you're not yo-yo dieting all the time and changing shape, you're spending a fortune buying clothes all the time. Whereas if you maintain a healthy weight, then you're going to stay in the same body shape. You can start to, you know, curb down the spending. And I think the other big thing which will have rewards in the future is obviously medical bills. You know, the healthier you are, the less likely you are to have to go to the doctor, and that should bring down all your costs as well. So I think those are the main ways: being planful in what you eat and the lifestyle choice you make, so you can plan out your finances for the month. You know, being clever about when you train, how you train, what money you want to spend on it. And then I think the long-term benefits really, if the more healthy you are, the less you're going to spend on medical bills.
And I mean, one of the things that I experienced was, again, when you talked about that clear head, that clear focus, is now you get to begin, you're no longer worrying about your health and the way that you feel. You can now start to concentrate on what you actually want out of life.
Exactly.
So that planning side you talked about, it's not just planning the week ahead. You can now begin to plan your decades ahead with your family. So it starts to switch almost to like your own values. And then, you know, financial planning towards those things as opposed to just, you know, food and health and the immediate needs as well.
Yeah, you're going to have to plan for holidays right up until you're 100, because that's how long you're going to live for.
Great. I've always said on my goals, I see me as a 90-year-old traveller, and the vision is I'm stood on the top of a cliff. I didn't walk there, so there was no trekking involved. I came in a beautiful private jet probably, and I was just overlooking the ocean. And my words to myself, which is something I say to myself still often, is I can't believe I'm still travelling to these places.
Well, the difference between you and me was I would have trekked up there. But so will you if you keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, there's a vision for you, trekking up there at the age of 90. And it's done. It's actually, you know.
It is, for sure.
So great. Great. Thank you so much. I mean, it's so important to, you know, we think money is just about sort of money and buying things. And so thank you for sharing like how important it is on our own well-being and our fitness.
Sure. I mean, the last kind of tip I'd give to anyone watching is that if you really treat your health and fitness a little bit like a bank account. So my approach is this: if I get myself in credit by doing, you know, some exercise for the day or eating really healthily for the day, then, you know, you can take a small debit out at the end of the day, whether that be going out for a nice meal or treating yourself. But the thing we've got to be careful of is we want to make sure that bank is always in credit. And a lot of us may have taken a bit too much time taking out the debit, and eventually that's going to cause us some problems. So it's really just balancing out. You take your credits, build them up so you can have a little bit of fun.
I love that. Just don't get overdrawn.
Or bankrupt.
Or bankrupt, yeah. Great, thank you. Now let's move straight on to our viewer's question for the week.
I'm Soumya. How does keeping fit increase our finances?
So this was a great episode on that. So as you can see, first of all, one of the things it does, it keeps you alert and focused for you to go straight to work and make those major decisions that are really going to impact on your own personal finances. It's not just about food, it's also about exercise, and it's not just about exercise, it's also about food. Helping you do those things will give you a longer lasting illness carefree life, really. So you can now go on to thinking about the values and how you want to actually spend your life, and thinking of vision as opposed to prevention. So let's now go straight into this week's project of the week, which is schedule yourself a health plan. The fact is, we all have to exercise. We have to. It's just that important. So take out your calendar now and decide for at least 3 days a week what you are going to do to keep fit, and then simply schedule it in. Try those things for a few weeks and adjust them until you find something that works for you. It will constantly change, so don't get stuck on a rigid plan, because a rigid plan, it just won't exist. Now pick 3 foods you know you have often and you know are not so good for you. Decide to reduce the intake or eliminate them completely, and do this for 10 days and see how great you will feel. If you do your 10 days 4 times, you will be competing with Olympic champions. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to leave your comments on the link below, and we'll look forward to seeing you for another episode of UAE Money Talk.